Welcome to the No Streetlights podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Tim. We'll be engaging in vulnerable conversations every Friday to shine a light on what we've been through,
how it changed us, and what we learned. We want to encourage societal growth towards kindness through understanding.
These conversations and the associated language can be triggering.
Listen at your own discretion.
But please reach out if we need to be doing something better.
So, let's take a breath, relax, and be welcome.
So, Aaron, who have we brought on this week?
This week, you found us a pseudo-celebrity, as he likes to identify, the host of Don't Give Up the Ship.
I do not like to identify as a pseudo celebrity. I just saw that as a poor choice of a poor attempt at explaining my feelings about having done this for so long.
Nah, man, I actually have you saved on my Zoom forever for now as pseudo celebrity.
Awesome. I did that to myself. Yeah, no, you guys got me up at this disrespectful hour, so yeah, I'm not as sharp as I normally am.
And you've been trying to die for the past 3 days.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to die for the past 20 years, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah. They won't let us go.
Yeah, it makes it difficult.
So, Tim, what drew you to Don't Give Up the Ship? Was it the Homa debacle?
Yeah, so
Alpha Homa, here we go.
There's no secret on this podcast that I'm still active duty in the Navy, and I'm a Master at Arms. So I'm part of the Facebook group, the meme page. It's popular. Everybody sees it. They're always posting something on there. And I don't know. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes they're dogging people. You know, it is what it is. It's the internet. And they posted about a podcast, or they shared it, that talked about Navy stuff. And I was interested. I was like, holy shit. I was like, who is this? And I shot you a message on Facebook, and you actually responded. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, dude, a lot of people do that. And that's the pseudo celebrity thing. Like, I get messages and they're like, you're probably never gonna read this, or you're probably never gonna respond. And I get from that they think I'm so inundated with messages that I'm never, they're not actually gonna get a response from me. And I'm like, I don't have a staff. I'm just a dude doing a podcast. I got some friends that help me out and stuff, and other people working with me, but not it's just out of the goodness of their heart. I mean, it's not, yeah. So I get messages like that all the time, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm totally gonna respond. It might take me a while, but I'll get there. Eventually, I will always respond.
It might take a while because we're retired, not because
just because I'm old and a terrible adult. It has nothing to do with
it. Has nothing to do with it. Yeah,
a big deal or anything. Yeah,
look, I turned notifications off on my phone. I forgot how to turn notifications back on. I don't know. I'll see your message when I see it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get there. It's all the accounts are for the podcast, so I'm not always I don't always monitor all of them all the time. So if you hit me up on Reddit, it'll take me longer than if you shoot me an email, but I'll get there.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you touched on the Alpha Homa situation, and that was the first episode I listened to by you, and it kind of resonated with a lot with me. I started thinking about what Aaron and I have talked about in our leadership episode all the way back at the beginning of season 1. Talking about, treating people like people, and being empathetic, and actually understanding and reaching people rather than just barking orders at them. And I was like, man, this guy really knows his shit. Who is he? So, I kind of want to open the floor to you right now, D-Guts. Can you tell me who are you and what makes you so uniquely qualified to talk on these?
I don't even know if I am uniquely qualified, but we'll get to that. So
we'll get a PQS together.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
We'll get a PQS together.
Yeah. Well, in that way, I'm probably qualified. Good God. They've just qualified me everything, even when I didn't want to. Yeah. So I am now retired. I retired in September of 22, but now retired, crusty old submariner Master Chief. I joined the Navy in 2002, right? I guess it was 2001, and then got to boot camp in January 2002. But right after 9/11, I was in college, and I was already looking for a way out. I didn't like college, and I was already looking at the military too, because I had a bunch of family in the Navy, and So I was already kind of eyeballing it. I was window shopping, and then 9/11 pushed me over the edge, like it did a lot of people. So I'm one of those guys.
Yeah.
And
I was
yeah,
in
man,
third grade
20.
during 9/11. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, I was in college because I'm old. Yeah, they after 21 years, retired. I'm in Washington State still. And yeah, like I was an A school instructor at an army base in Virginia near Richmond, and a bunch of A school instructors and me were all getting inundated with messages from past students that were now out in the fleet asking for help with generally one of two problems. It was either and probably predominantly this one because of where they were at in their career progression, but they were either asking for help understanding their leaders, like they were getting a lot of what I call leadership incompetence in the way that these leaders were treating them and communicating with them that they didn't understand. They're just like, all of a sudden, these people are treating me what I interpret to be poorly, and I don't know what to do with that. And it feels like a lot of what you see very, very early on with sailors, including myself when I first joined, was those interactions. Like I take it personally, like you don't like me and everybody hates me. And so you can imagine what that does to somebody's mental health and just like their drive to improve or do well or whatever. And then the other one was they get thrust into leadership positions early. You know, like they were a push button or a push button third class right out of A school or whatever, and they get thrown into being like a galley watch captain or some kind of supervisor, and they're like, "Oh God, like I'm in charge of people. What do I do with my hands?" And so we kept getting these messages asking very similar questions in those two lanes. And so I started thinking to myself, like, and this coincided with me being effectively on a joint base. Like it was an army base, but I was working with very closely with the Air Force and the Army all the time, and kind of adjacently with the Marine Corps and Coast Guard. So being my naturally curious self, started to try to learn about their cultures and how they did things. And I started to realize that they all did some sort of leadership development and education, debatable quality, but they were doing something and we weren't. And I wanted to know why and how and whatever. So I kind of started to dig into how they did that. And I think that all kind of came to a head where I was like, I want to develop a resource for these kids where they don't need to wait for a response from me or one of those other instructors. And I'm answering the same question over and over again. So I could just make a static resource that they can go to, and they don't need to rely on me or one of the instructors to answer the question. And it's the same question, so they could then just like direct their friends to it or whatever. And I settled on a podcast because it was at the time I didn't want my face or name on it because I was still active duty, and I had a huge concern about junior sailors taking it seriously because I was a chief. And I understood the perception of the Chiefs mess, and I think I still do, but you know, there's some active duty people that think I don't. And yeah, so I settled on a podcast for that reason, just no YouTube or anything like that. But and I started just dorking out really hard on leadership. That's what kept me in the Navy. I was the guy getting out at every enlistment point. And I was an 11-year chief on the Jimmy Carter and was like very seriously looking at jobs and trying to get out of the Navy. And then they put me in charge of running the chief season. And that was, I mean, that would have been like 2012 or 2013. And it was like crack. I was just like the leadership development thing. Like when I got to do that, it was because I'm a teacher already. Like I was already a thing that I liked teaching and mentoring. But when I got to like build, and the experience conspired to be very unique in that like everyone else was very busy. So like the Chief Selects had sponsors, but they were elsewhere and distracted all the time. And I didn't have a lot going on because the galley was shut down. We were in the shipyard. So it was like I became a sponsor to all five of these selects by myself, and really like just a full spectrum of like I was there for everything. They came to me for everything. So I got to like from beginning to end build these leaders and in a very hands-on way. And it was just I was addicted. And so that was like I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. And so like I that kept me in the Navy because I didn't feel like I could do that in that way and get that type of fulfillment anywhere else doing leadership development stuff. So that got me to stick around, and then I just got obsessed, man. I started studying, I started seeking development. I think a big part of it that also makes me maybe a little more qualified or a little more aware of in the way that I am and in the way that I present on the podcast is when I made chief on Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter is a special project submarine that you have to volunteer to go to, right? So you have to volunteer to join the military, you have to volunteer to go submarines, and then within submarines, you have to volunteer to go to the Jimmy Carter. You can't just get detailed there. And you have to go through the screening process and all this stuff, um, and get selected. So when you go there, you got to think of the type of people that are going to be there as a result of that process. It's like these guys are all like type A, overachieving, just really smart, really advanced, just beasts of humans. And that's the like that Chiefs mess is who taught me how to be a chief and who taught me how to be a leader. And I'm still close with a lot of those guys to this day, but it was like a CPO academy. And I spent 3 years there because I should have gotten redistroed, as is common with new chiefs, but they didn't like the guy that was there. So they sent him somewhere else and kept me. And so I got to stay there for my first LCPO tour and spent 3 years just immersed in this culture and like constantly teaching, but also like holding me accountable. Like I couldn't like if I started thinking about stepping my toe across the line, there was a crusty old chief there to smack me back inside of it and tell me what I was doing wrong and keep me on the straight and narrow. And like if I needed advice, if I needed help, it was just this embarrassment of riches. So that was a huge part of it. It got me started off the right way. And then I mean I credit my parents quite a bit too, just for like making me the person I am. But like it it was definitely that at first, and then I started studying it for whatever it's relevant for. I got a degree in organizational leadership, but that was like at the very end of my career. But yeah, I got really I was very much focused on that, like leadership development and doing what people I mean, what they should classify as chief things. Most junior sailors probably wouldn't, but um I just got obsessed with doing those kinds of things. And my primary duty of being the cook chief or whatever I was doing, it was kind of like I was still doing that, but it wasn't what I was like going after. And the way that the career progression on submarines works too is they kind of you get further and further away from doing your job and you get more and more pushed towards like the chief of the boat CMC route anyway. So it
Mhm.
is probably a very big reason why I ended up a master chief, because I always joke that with my mouth and willingness to say things, I probably should have retired a chief. Like I was convinced. I mean, I was really convinced I was going to retire chief. So as soon as I was getting paid as a chief, I was just like, all right, let's see what this can do. Because I was like, who cares? You know, like what it was.
How
What
long are
difference?
they going to let me do this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. At some point, they're going to realize they made a mistake and they're going to want to take it back. So I might as well just like do whatever damage I can
Live it
now.
up,
Gotta
man.
enjoy it.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I did it in the way that I do it. I think the experience along the way had a lot to do with it because like you one of you guys was saying that you went back to the beginning and listened to like the intro episode, and I was just like, oh God. Because I like you can if you God bless you have the patience to work through all 7 years of those podcasts, you can see how I grew and changed and developed over time. So it's not like when I first started I was super qualified to do it. And the whole project evolved over time as well. Like I initially aimed it at just junior sailors, and I was just a chief at the time, right? So that was very much where my focus was developing like a division. And then as that grew and the response from the audience was very much like more senior people, like senior second classes, a lot of board eligible first classes and chiefs as time went on were the ones interacting with me too. So then I started to do topics that benefited them as a result too. So, but then I was promoting, I was being put in charge of chiefs. I was, so it very much paralleled my progression.
Right.
And yeah, man, I still study. I'm going to school for psychology. I read a lot. I'm just a big dork about this stuff because and a big motivator for me was the leadership and confidence I saw through my whole career. Like I learned from what not to do for the majority of my career. I had a few good ones, thank God, so I could contrast those, but the majority of the leadership I had in the military was horrific. And so
Right.
I was the salty second class going, well, I'm wearing anchors. I'm going to do this, and I'll never do that to my sailors and stuff like that. And so I think a lot of the drive and passion for it comes from there as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a long-winded, not so short answer to your question. Is like that's I think I'm qualified to do it. I think I'm an authority on it. I don't think I'm like the authority, and I'm very willing to have conversations with people. And that's kind of one of the pillars of like the mission statement of the podcast, if there is one, is like I'll talk to anybody about anything, anytime. And like the internet has I would say been kind to me in a way. I'm probably jinxing myself, but um
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a lot of negative feedback or pushback or people coming for my head or whatever. And I criticize the chief mess a shitload. And they just I don't know why. I mean, it's definitely happened, but I don't know why I haven't gotten more pitchforks and torches. But what I theorize is that the majority of the feedback I get from individual chiefs and first classes and just leadership in general is they all kind of think like I do, but everybody's afraid to say it out loud in the group setting. Like they're worried the organism that is the Chiefs mess is going to come for their head. And they're not wrong. It will still. Like there are
Mhm.
plenty of people that don't listen to my podcast because they don't know what podcasts are. And that's like the fucking fleet master chief level or like the high level flag CMC types
You're right.
that would probably passionately disagree with most of what I do. Not all of
Right.
them. I know a bunch of those guys that are with it too, but
Mhm.
um it's yeah, man. I think like the people that would passionately disagree with me don't listen to podcasts, maybe. And then the ones that do, it's like I'm reaching them at an individual level. And when you're talking to just a person, it's almost like I circumvent uh all that just dogma and shit because I'm just an individual is listening to a podcast seeking information. It's not like me in my bully pulpit preaching at them about what a chief is and how to do better at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not
But
climbing on a
there's
soapbox whenever you're talking about these
yeah.
things.
Well, and you came to me. You hit play. I didn't
Yeah.
walk up to you in a supermarket and start shaking my Chief Bible at you. You know what I mean? Like so I didn't it's
Oh,
like
that's
a
called a
I
charge book.
yeah, yeah. I think I circumvent a lot of that dogma for a lot of people in that way.
Yeah.
Not all of them. There's certainly some anomalies, but yeah,
Yeah.
for the most part it's been really really positive and I think that's why is like I think I kind of found like a cheat code or something. But yeah, that's what I do here. I've been doing it like 7+ years. I think I'm in year 8 now.
Yeah,
I don't
you are.
remember.
Because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
started the podcast. I was in the Navy for 8 months when you first started the podcast. And I remember because
Fuck, I'm old.
I looked at the
Jesus.
published date of your very first episode and I did the math and I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
Yeah. I've been getting
You've
after
been
it
at
for a
this for
hot
a
minute.
minute. Yeah.
Yep.
One thing
Yep.
that struck out or stuck out to me about your podcast too is so one of the biggest feedbacks I've ever received from any of my friends out here and other junior
Mhm.
sailors and stuff is they've listened to our leadership episode and they all had a comment about the platinum rule. And it's
Which is what?
if you listen to that, it's the treat people the way they want to be treated rather than
Okay.
like the
What's
golden
the
rule.
criticism?
No, it wasn't criticism. It was all positive
Oh, okay.
feedback, really. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
people were talking about how they've never heard of something like that, and
Yeah.
I started implementing that into their leadership. I'm talking
Mhm.
like freshly frocked second classes or people who are
Mhm.
standing as like the patrol supervisor or watch comm and stuff. Like they're talking about how they heard about this, and it whenever I started listening to your podcast, I realized I was like,
Mhm.
there is a whole ass resource out there that touches on these things that these sailors have told me that they gain from one episode of my
Right. Right.
podcast. I can't even imagine how much they would learn, how much I would learn listening to your
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, I listened to a little bit of that episode. And I like it. It's very, we don't talk about leadership. And that was the whole design behind the podcast. Is like I looked at it, and I came from, again, like a very unique pipeline in development as a leader, where that Chiefs mess that I just happened to find myself in developed me in a way that I'm convinced is not common, right? Like there was just a lot of hyper competent people in the room, and they all deliberately developed me and the other Chiefs there. And it's probably not a coincidence. Most of us left service if we're retired as Master Chiefs, even the ones that like there are dudes out there that like the Cobb at the time, like I'm not going to use a name, but if he hears it, he's going to know I'm talking about him. Is like he got excommunicated from the Chiefs quarters, kind of like the Cobb was so pissed at him, he made him sleep in the E6 and below berthing and like wouldn't let him come in there and shit. And it was like that dude. As we have this conversation, that dude's the Master Chief. So it's like even the ones that you would think at the time might have been like the shit bags or whatever, even those dudes are Master Chiefs. So it's like
Damn.
it's I think I had a very unique development in that way, but we talked about leadership all the time. Like my Cobb did training for us to be Cobbs. He did training, just regular Chiefs training. It's the only place in my entire naval experience that I've had a Chiefs mess that did Chiefs training to teach us how to be better Chiefs, which sounds fucking insane when you consider what the Navy does for everything else. Like submariners are just maniacal about training, nukes, all that. And I'm sure you guys as well. Like, but for whatever reason, the Chiefs mess does not prioritize that stuff by and large. And so yeah, it's funny tiny how tiny the effort has to be to make an impact, just because there is such a appetite for this stuff. And that's what like if you were to like aggregate all the feedback that I get from listeners, that's one of the things that you see the most, even from like chiefs and senior chiefs and officers, is like it's like they found an oasis in the desert, man. They're just like, thank God somebody's finally doing something. And there's certainly some other resources out there. Like Jocko is a big thing that I point at all the time. I'm a big fan of his work for the most part. And it's like there's stuff out there, but it's not specific. And I think I'm a little more niche in that, like a lot of people have told me, especially as I retired, I should get away from the hyper specific Navy stuff. And it's like I I do sometimes with some of the leadership topics and stuff, but also it's just like I feel the need to talk about it in that way, like with the Alpha Homa stuff, where it's kind of like a case study, but it's also like I want people like you to go somewhere and find someone speaking your language, and it's like I just don't think that's happening on some of those platforms, but yeah, with the platinum rule stuff, man, I don't disagree with it. I like when I hear it, my first thought is I didn't come equipped with psychic powers. So it's like you have to have a conversation about how do I know how they want to be treated, right? And that's very much a conversation with them about uh who they are, what they're about, where they come from, what they believe, what's important to them, right? Like um it's my friend Amber's a social worker, and she talks a lot about cultural competence in her work, and it's like just learning about like who somebody is, where they're from, what their upbringing was like, so that I understand what their like values are, what's important to them. Because she relayed a really interesting story to me on a podcast about a gentleman that she had just become a supervisor as a GM2, and one of her juniors was from a country in Africa, I forget where, but the culture was such that basically like uh they had very archaic gender roles, as far as like the women cook and clean, raise the children, and the men are the one, and you don't talk back, and I don't take direction from a woman type thing. And she was the supervisor giving him direction, telling him what to do, right? And he was really hostile towards her, and she didn't understand why. And so one day they had a conversation about it, and she learned where he was from, and then she went and did her own research and was like, "Oh, I get it now." And then they talked some more and worked on it, and eventually they kind of like because she explained her side too. Like, look, man, I understand, and I'll do what I can to like be sensitive to that, but at the same time, we are where we are. You joined the Navy, it didn't join you. I'm the boss. Like we got to figure out a way to make this work. And they worked it out to a point where the working relationship was healthy. And so that like it always sticks in my mind of like a lot of times you see people just try to counseling shit somebody to death and like you're gonna I'm gonna fix this sailor with paper. And it's like, no, you're not. And but that's the only tool they have because that's
Yeah,
the only tool the Navy provided to them.
right.
And so I spent a lot of time on leadership and competence, and I say it, and people think it sounds harsh. I think it sounds harsh. It's not how I mean it. I mean it literally. Like they're incompetent because they were never taught. And so I put a lot of the onus on the organization for not preparing them for the position they're in because it's like me putting you on watch as a patrolman or whatever, and you're not qualified a weapon, and maybe you don't even have a weapon, and you don't know how to operate the vehicle, and you don't know how to do any of the things. You don't know the radio jargon, whatever. It's like you're gonna fail because of course you are. Why
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
yeah,
I set you up to fail,
yeah,
right? And so like for whatever reason, um, junior sailors don't recognize that at all, and I spent a lot of time on it trying to demystify that is like, look, these people are thrust into these positions of incompetence. And one, it's largely not their fault. Two, they're largely unaware of it. And that's because they have spent a career getting validated by promotions and awards and the organization patting them on the back. And so you'll find chiefs out there that think they're leadership experts just because they're a chief. And it's like, no, you're not. You're so far from it, and you don't even realize it. And so that's the blind spot that is a really, really difficult thing to circumvent. But
right. One
it's
thing,
again, I think I found like a weird workaround where when they find the podcast and listen to it, they're kind of accidentally open-minded because I didn't come at them sideways. They came to me and hit play with intellectual curiosity, and then they find themselves going, "Oh shit!" I've had people like have crazy revelations and send me these emails that they still blow my mind about like you completely changed the way that I am do chiefing and shit like that. So yeah, it's fun.
yeah, because one thing that I remember you touched on in that
Mhm.
intro episode was, or what's the Homa episode? I can't remember now. One thing that you had touched on was you don't believe anybody is a natural born leader. Like people can have
Yeah,
raw talent to be a leader, but
mhm,
it is still a skill that needs to be,
for
trained
sure.
and learned, and they have to be able to
Yeah.
cultivate that in order to make them an effective leader. And I think the term that I've heard many times through my career is
Mhm.
trial by fire, where
Mhm.
people, it's like, hey, welcome to the world of second class.
Yep.
Here's this work center soup collateral.
Yep.
You know nothing about SCED, you know nothing about ohms.
Yep.
Get
They just Sparta kick you off a cliff to
Yep.
see if you can fly, dude.
Yeah,
That's a leadership development in the Navy.
and
Like,
the thing is like depending on how like bad you fail or how bad you don't fail, I guess, is how they're going to
mhm.
consider if you're good at it or not. And
Yeah.
it's kind of wild, right? Because
Mhm.
now I've been kind of blessed in my career, right? I've been lucky that every time I take on a new position, I've received a full turnover from individuals.
Mhm.
I get trained out and they're always there to answer questions whenever I have them.
Yeah.
I've been blessed, but that's not the case for everybody that I've ran across in the military. I've seen
Right.
some people who have no idea really about, and I know like the PQS system is supposed to circumvent a lot of that, but there's a
Mhm.
difference between answering, questions on a test or a board, like they know what the right answer is, but when you have to actually like live through making those decisions, it's a completely
Mhm.
different beast. Like for patrol
Yeah.
supervisor, we can let people get, qualified to supervise the entire section, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that they're going to actually be able to effectively do it without, going through the actual training process,
Right.
UIing a couple handful of times and, you know,
Yeah.
and not trial by fire. We want them to actually know what they're doing by the time they actually take that job.
Yeah. A lot of that's go ahead, man. Sorry, Aaron. You look like you're
Yeah, no worries. I was just wanting to
Ah,
say,
rough.
with the whole like
Okay.
out of line and even as Tim was saying, thrusting someone into a new leadership position and then grading them based on their performance
Mhm.
when they haven't been trained
Yeah.
is you're saying why, or the Chiefs mess on the Carter was saying, why would I allow you to make these detrimental mistakes if I've already made them?
Right.
Which is something that we don't do normally as a cultural norm in the military of
Hmm.
like, hey, here's what I need you to do,
Hmm.
how I need you to do it, and why I need it done that way, or here are some things I've tried. And I've listened to several of your episodes. I've listened to a couple with the Commodore and stuff.
Hmm.
I love that you're dispelling these ideas like the charge book. It's not
Yeah.
here's what you should do. Initially, it was like here's how you're fucking up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's important in something that Tim and I talk a lot about as far
Hmm.
as like keeping friends accountable is you don't know that you upset me if I don't tell you.
100%.
So it is my responsibility to say, here's what I fucking expect. And
Right.
here's what's going to happen if you don't do that. I can't
Right.
just say, put your hands behind your back. It's turn
A
away from
lot.
the sound of my voice or I'm going to fucking OC you. And then they're
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe I should turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the direction, like they'll tell you what they want you to do, but never tell you, like never provide you the training for like the capability to do so, like the whatever I need to know in order to do it successfully. And it's like that's and but they're like you guys just said, they're also measuring you based on your success for this thing that they never prepared you for do, and then punishing you for not doing it well. But the worst part, I think, is that they're like the PQSs and stuff. I don't think they help in the way that we need them to. In that, like, yes, it provides you with certain competencies and make sure, like, yeah, I need you to know how to operate an M9 if you're going to walk around with an M9 on your hip all day. However, talking about the all the scenarios in which you would draw and use that M9 and how they differ and all the complexities there is like something that we should be spending a lot of time on that I'm guessing they don't. But like the analogy being for like leadership development, it's like it's very much they want you to know a lot of technical things. They want you to meet all these metrics. They want you to know all these institutional things and conform to the requirements of all these programs, and let's get these spreadsheets green. Let's get these maintenance plans green. Let's do all this shit that is very much metrics driven at the expense of all the human capital. Like they don't think about, okay, well, what's the effect of just like beating everyone until morale improves, or cracking the whip until everybody gets the thing done? What's that going to do to us long term? And I think like for you in particular, like you're living in the result of this manning and retention hellscape of that type of thing, right? Like now that we're in this place where they've effectively incentivized getting out of the military, right? And I called this shit when they made blended retirement mandatory. I was like, you fucking idiots. You so one,
Yeah.
so one post 9/11 GI Bill. I have said since that came out, if the post 9/11 GI Bill existed when I was on my first shore duty, I would have ran for the fucking hills because I could have went to college and had E5 BAH and all the other shit that you get if that had and it would have paid for all of my school. That was the other thing, is like the culinary school I wanted to go to, it was very expensive, and the regular legacy GI Bill, the Montgomery GI Bill, wouldn't cover it. It was like 26 grand, and my associate's degree was 30 grand. It was a real Gucci culinary school. So
Wow.
like but with post 9/11 easy money, and I would have been getting BAH every month and all this other stuff.
Hmm.
So if post 9/11 GI Bill would have been around, I would have never been a Master Chief. I would have kicked rocks and been in the culinary industry this whole time. Um, then I get to the second shore duty where I'm an A school instructor, and they do this blended retirement stuff, and they mandated it. If it had remained optional, fine. But when they made it mandatory, I'm like, so what incentive does anyone at all ever have to stay Navy for 20 years or more, right? And I said it then, I was like, in 10 years, this is going to come back to haunt them, because that generation that joins where it's mandatory does 4 years on a ship, does 3-ish years on shore duty, and then separates from the military. Because why would they stay? Now they have this blended retirement account thing going for them. So they get to leave with some semblance of a retirement plan already. And they get to leave with the post 9/11 GI Bill. And awareness on VA disability claims has gone through the fucking roof.
Oh yeah.
So, like, why? Why would they stay? Especially when it's getting so ridiculous. It's like they want you to do more with less. Everybody's getting out. Manning's fucking terrible. We're deploying all the time. We're going to war with people over fucking nothing all the time. Like it's just getting more and more insane. They're demanding more and more and more of service members, and they incentivized not doing the job anymore. And so here we are with this manning and retention hellscape. And it's like, if you had treated these people like they weren't consumables early on, they would stick around. Like most people join the military because they want to be part of something greater than themselves. They're not joining for the paycheck. And I recently heard this little Simon Sinek clip, which I'm not a giant Simon Sinek fan, but it was a great point. Was he worked a bunch with special forces guys, and they were having retention issues for a long time. A lot of it was probably more based on they expanded the mission and they were deploying constantly, and so they needed more of them. But they started throwing like enormous reenlistment bonuses, like 150, $200,000, something like that. And the reaction, apparently, according to him and his interactions, was it was one of two things. It was fuck you, that's not what I joined for, and they left anyway, or fuck you, that's not what I joined for, but I'll take the check and then get out in 3 years anyway. You know what I mean? Like, so they weren't doing that job for the money. And it's like, that should be like Crayola crayon obvious. But for some reason, it's like who the fuck, if they're a Navy SEAL and they get that training, they're gonna know by the end of their first enlistment that they can go leave and do security contractor things or a million other things and make infinitely more money. So if they were there for the money, that's what they would do 100% of the time. So it's like the only reason you have a community of Navy SEALs is because they want to stick around to be part of that community of Navy SEALs, or what insert name of special forces community or military community here. So it's like, that's something that it blows my mind that they don't understand. It's like most of the people that are having these conversations and making these decisions are active duty military members. And yes, they're detached from reality in a lot of ways because they've been on flag staffs for 15 years and not in the real military anymore. But like, it's, I don't know, man. It's confusing that they haven't figured that out. That if you treat human beings like human beings, like the whole thing will get better in every measurable way that they're actively concerned about. All those metrics, because they're driving everybody to the ground to try to meet those metrics. And now they can't meet those metrics because all those people are like, man, fuck this. You're treating me like shit. If they had treated them, if they had took care of them at the beginning, those metrics would take care of themselves and the people would stay. And
Yeah.
everybody would be a lot happier for it. So
Yeah. I think damn, I was just thinking of something. What the hell was it? Talking about
Don't worry,
treating
I have
people
several points.
talking about
yeah.
treating like people and
I talked you into forgetting. That's what happened. I told you gotta jingle car keys at me, man. I'll go
So
forever.
my car keys is going to be about that first Chief season.
My
So I
first
do
or
your first.
okay.
I do love that you said you were here to be a leader. You wanted to
Mhm.
affect change at the deck plates. You wanted to change these
Right.
people's lives so they were better equipped to handle the mission, and therefore the mission would get done better because it's capable
Right.
people fucking doing it. And then you said, when I realized that I could make chiefs, why the fuck would I go back to affecting one person at a time
Mhm.
when I can teach the people who are going to be leading those people?
Right.
So
Right.
every life I change changes 30 lives instead of one life.
That's the idea. Yeah, that's certainly the hope. Yeah. And
And,
I don't know that I thought I could change people's lives. I just thought it was more like I want you to avoid the pain I went through. I don't ever want anybody to experience what I did as a baby in my first few years in the Navy. Um, and so that was my driving force. I think was just an attempt to help as many people as I could avoid that experience for sure.
Yeah.
And then one of the major cruxes that you talk about quite frequently is that people aren't affecting change until they've been in for 28 years.
Mm,
So they're so far disconnected from the people they're affecting.
mm,
I do, uh, I do see that there's just this huge disconnect, and it's
yeah.
the people who are making the decisions are so heavily institutionalized. They
Mm,
don't see the common sense, obvious
yeah.
solutions. They see, here's how we've always done it, so it must be done this way.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Or they've been so indoctrinated into whatever the bureaucratic hierarchical structure is in DC and the Pentagon and all that shit. Like, I don't know what it's like there. I've heard horrible things from all the people I know that have worked at the Pentagon, but like, yeah, they've been so just warped by that environment and the bureaucratic processes therein that it's like they don't even know what they're supposed to be doing anymore, and they're so detached from reality that they like my I understand like sometimes they do these like working groups and stuff, but like how effective are those? Are you even listening to the feedback? Because like it's not the same thing, but I was a simio for a while and I did a couple Deox surveys and debriefed the triad who like turned it into like a satirical comedy hour in the fucking CO's office about how dumb all these peasants are. And I'm like, dude, that's not what this is supposed to be. Like, you're not supposed to be laughing at it and dismissing everything. If there's 20 comments about how the Chiefs mess is fucking incompetent, maybe you should be taking that seriously. And they're just laughing at, oh, bitching sailor's a happy sailor. And it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
what
that
the fuck?
phrase.
That is not what's supposed to be happening in this conversation. So
Yeah.
I can imagine that, you know, like that's very much what happens when they get their working group feedback or whatever, you know. So
Those peons.
yeah, fucking
And I
peasants.
imagine
Shut
that's another big institutional macro problem is whenever the pump breaks, they say go back to the yards and get a new pump.
Mhm.
So whenever a sailor's unhappy, they say, "Oh, we must just have to get a new sailor. That one's bad."
Or send them to mental health. And it's
Yeah.
like, or hear me out, just don't be a fucking asshole all the time and they won't have acute mental health issues. Don't
Yeah.
be a completely incompetent douchebag as a leader and they won't have those acute mental health. Like that's what it is like they teach it. This is what's so funny. They're not fucking unaware. They teach it in the career counselor course. The number one reason people stay in the military, leadership. The number one people get the fuck out of the military, leadership. I'm shocked. So it's like fucking this should be our number one priority. It really should be. And you could also go to like historical examples. Like, guess how we won World War II? It wasn't because we were bigger and badder and better. There's an argument for that. But it was because when we dropped all these paratroopers behind enemy lines and landed on D-Day, and it was a shit show when we did, our NCOs and officers had the ability and the competence to fucking rally to figure it out. Okay, we know what our objective is. You, come with me. We're gonna go do this thing, and then figured it out and got it done anyway. Even though like it was everything was in complete disarray, nothing went as planned. Fucking, it was a dumpster fire. Like everything they had planned went to shit, and they still that, but they adapted and overcame because those NCOs were empowered to do so. They were trained to do so. The officers, same. Like that, it should be our prime directive. It will make us a more capable and lethal fighting force. And for whatever reason, it's just fucking not even addressed or recognized.
I find it so interesting too that you mentioned that specific example as to why people were able to like, or back then why we were able to win.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like every year, every fucking naval base out there, military base and everything talks about that specific battle, talking about
Mhm.
how, they let everybody know it was a shit show and everything. They
Yeah.
know, they talk about it, but they still
Mhm.
don't touch on what actually helped us, the
Well,
leadership.
they won't align the institution
Hmm.
to function in a way that prioritizes those things. And I don't, I'll never understand. I would love for somebody to explain it to me, but like I don't know if it's a real thing, but if somebody wants to be a leadership whistleblower, hit me up. Like, because I just really want to know what happens behind those closed doors in the Pentagon because I don't believe these people are stupid. Like I really don't. And I don't believe like while there could be one or two, I don't believe that they're malevolent either. You know what I mean? Like I'm but because I don't believe those things, it makes it even more confusing because like those are the easiest explanations is like, it's the fucking evil empire. It's like they're trying to treat everybody like shit. And I don't believe that to be true, but I also like have a hard time arriving at another explanation. So it's like why are we here, you know?
One thing that kind of comes to mind when you say that too is it really could just be a massive disconnect between what they're saying and how people are implementing it. And
I yeah.
the example I can give you here is on my ship.
Hmm.
We were having an issue with our plastic waste disposal system.
Hmm.
And so the CEO told the fucking the ship store, like, hey, just
Yeah.
be careful about how much plastic we sell because we
Right.
won't be able to dispose of all of it effectively. And the ship store complied by removing plastic from fucking everything. Like the Pringles cans, you could buy a thing of Pringles, but there was no plastic lid on it. So if you fucking opened it, your Pringle,
It's
you
all
have to just eat.
stale and
Yeah,
shit.
you just have to
Yeah.
eat the shit. Like cigarettes were being sold without any kind of
Yeah.
like cellophane on it and everything.
Right.
It was
Right.
fucking, it was hilarious. And the commanding officer was like, I did not tell you guys to fucking
Yeah.
do that. I just said
Right.
be careful. Like
Right.
stop selling the
Right.
fucking the protein shakes in the plastic bottles and stuff. Like give
And
It's
people
that's
the
the
some
problem
meme,
plastic off
about
of
dude.
their
It's the
cigarettes, man.
proceduralizing everything.
Yeah, well, it's the meme of like the CEO said, "Hey, we got to be there by 8." So then the next level down said 7:30. The next level down
Yeah.
says 7. The next, and then by the
Yep.
time it gets to the bottom, you're showing up at 4:30 in the morning for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
And it's
With a full sea bag
Dude,
and
we
fucking
we
like
talk about
what are we
we've joked
doing?
about that on our podcast a couple times now, and it's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
fucking funny every time I hear it too.
yeah.
It's the best
And
example.
you're correct. There's for sure a bunch of things that are misinterpreted or lost in translation or whatever, and it's a fair hedge to like the accusation of like, hey, we're incompetent. Why are we doing all these things wrong? But it's not an excuse.
No, no, definitely not.
But yeah, it's like the when they talk about like when I talk about the Chiefs season, I criticize it a ton. I think it's broken. But what you do see, I talked to Damo from the Permission to Speak Freely podcast about this on the last episode we did, was like the a lot of the stuff guidance that you see, and this is like asterisk if you get guidance, a lot of the guidance you see from MCPON, Fleet Master Chiefs, Force Master Chiefs, if you read the guidance on what they say is allowed during Chiefs initiation, it's pretty it's pretty good. It's pretty progressive. It's vague. It doesn't provide a procedure or very clearly delineated like policy, but it does say a lot of the right things, right? Generally. And then by the time that trickles down from the MCPON to the leadership mess to the CMCs to the chiefs that are actually facilitating initiation, almost all of it gets thrown out the fucking window. You know, like there are certainly messes that are like, no, this is what he said. We got to do it this way, and they do a good job of implementing it. But they're rare. It gets watered down a lot if it gets done at all. And that was something me and Damo were talking about. Is like it's almost like little kids where they're like, don't push that button, and all these fucking chiefs are like, I'm pushing that fucking button. You know what I mean? Like, and they just start mashing that shit for the whole Chief season until it's over or until they get shut down and they're on the cover of the Navy Times. And it's like you can't like none of these motherfuckers got hazed unless it was like an isolated incident. None of them went through the type of cheese season you read about in a tradition of change. But it's like they pretend they do for some reason, or like back in my day. I'm like, your day was 2 fucking years ago. Calm down. Like you didn't do anything crazy. And like people getting their dolphins used to do the same thing. Like act like hazing was still real and dolphins were still getting tacked on and you were still drinking your fish and all this bullshit. And it's like, you got your dolphins 6 months ago, bro. Calm the fuck down. You're not old school. You're not like this fucking cool bro from back in the day that had to like earn it the old school way or whatever the fuck you warped idea you have in your mind. But for some reason, they behave as if they were. And it's like, you didn't go through that. So it's not like, well, I went through it. You have to go through it. And I don't really understand where it comes from, but for whatever reason, Chiefs, bubbleheads, like they fucking act like there's this thing that like because they heard about it and it's been like glorified for some reason. And it's like, if I actually put you through the thing that you're glorifying in your mind, you'd fucking quit. So what are you doing? Like, and you'd complain or you'd feel wronged or whatever. So it's like it doesn't make any sense, but that's what you see happen a lot, and it's nonsensical, has no basis in reality, and is very, very damaging to the next generation of leadership. Because what you find, what's really a huge problem right now is there are a lot of new chiefs from y'all's generation, right? That are very competent, intelligent, self studies, emotionally intelligent, want to do the right thing for their people, really want to take care of them in the way that they want to be taken care of. And they get into the Chiefs mess and they meet this like really staunch resistance to those ideas and that behavior, because that's not how we do things, or that's not what are you like coddling them and spoon feeding them and all this stupid bullshit. And they're on an island within this Chiefs mess where they're just getting bludgeoned and told that they're fucking it up and doing it wrong, and that's not how you chief and all this shit. Or they're getting like alienated and put out in the colds functionally by this mess that's just functioning like a third grader's like treehouse, like the club or whatever, and it's like
A
you
popularity
see
club, yeah.
yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of these young chiefs getting really just jaded and bitter and just kind of mentally checking out or feeling defeated because of the way the organization treats even them. And so now it's like we're starting to get this foothold like in the mess with people that are more emotionally intelligent and more competent at leadership like primary competencies, and want to do the right thing, but it's like they don't have a lot of allies within the mess. And so like what they find is this super unwelcoming environment that actively stifles the things that they want to do that would be very productive. And so you get a lot of these chiefs that are like, I know some that are seriously considering just separating from the military, or if they're close enough, they're just like doing that quiet quitting bullshit and then retiring or whatever. And so it's like, it sucks because they're good people. They're the right people for the job. And if it's ever going to change, those are the people that need to stick around and, like basically just breed all that ignorance out of the system. Because short of some kind of a transformational leader getting into a position of like MCPON or CNO or something like that, and just deciding at the institutional level that our priorities are all fucked up and we need to change them, there's just no other way to do it. Like it's like those people that view it this way and that have the competency need to stick around and be the change they want to see, kind of thing. As cheesy as it sounds, it's like those people are the ones we need to stay in. However, I was that guy for a long time, and I clocked out at 21 years, not because I felt done as far as like what I needed to get done, but because I didn't feel like I could do it anymore, both
Yeah.
like emotionally and mental health wise, but also like I just recognized that my sphere of influence was never real. Even if I made it to the MCPON level, I don't think my sphere of influence would have been such that I could have affected the change I wanted to see. And I thought I would have a way more far-reaching and profound impact by just doing the podcast, and I'd be freed up to do whatever the fuck I want, because I had put a lot of limiters on myself while I was still wearing a uniform, because I felt like just loyalty to the organization. And it's like, yeah, I might not agree with this, but I'm not going to go on the internet and actively trash it or whatever if
Right.
I'm wearing a uniform to work. So yeah, man, I say that with the understanding that it's like everybody can't do that, and the organization does a real effective job of driving those people out. I'm not a subscriber to the theory. I'm not a subscriber to the theory that is prevalent among junior sailors of all the smart people get out and you're only left with shitbags, and that's why leadership's so terrible. But it doesn't help that we're driving really intelligent, highly talented people out, and we are. I don't
Yeah.
think that leaves behind only shitbags is the part I disagree with. I just think that there are a lot of very talented, hyper competent people that are just recognizing like I don't deserve this shit. Like, and it's what's best for my physical and mental health. So sorry, I'm not going to be your messiah. Like I'm not going to stick around and fix this for you because I didn't fucking break it and I want to live a happy and healthy life.
Yeah.
But like the catch 22, of course, is that we really need those people to stick around. But like
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
dude, it's me too. I don't know because I can't tell you how many emails I got about. I can't wait till you're a Force Master Chief. I can't wait till you're a fleet. I can't wait till you're the McPon. Or I wish you were my Cobb. Like, that would be so fucking cool. And it's like, I agree with you, but also like I just couldn't. It was literally killing me. I'm a cancer survivor, mental health issues. I'm still on medication. Like I fucking couldn't do it anymore, man. And I empathize with the people that find themselves in the same boat because the organization is actively stifling, ostracizing, whatever that person. It's like I know too many of them through the podcast, and I feel like because of what we just talked about, short of some like Jocko type character accidentally becoming the McPon or the CNO, or like some other type of crazy um scenario that would transform it kind of overnight. And I mean, it would still take a long time to get the whole system to assimilate. But short of that happening, I couldn't figure out a way where my staying in the military would affect that change, even if I was one small component of a larger machine for change, right? Like, and so I just decided that if I'm going to get this done, it's going to be effectively through advocacy on the outside because now I can do whatever I want and there's nothing they can do about it except untag me on their Instagram account. Looking at you, McPon. But
What's up, baby girl?
but I can be extremely vocal, say whatever I want, do whatever I want, tag whoever I want. And there's no negative impact for me. And I've gotten a lot of really encouraging messages from people that I wouldn't expect to get them from, basically just telling me, keep going, you're making a difference, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, I think, I'm not certain, but I think this is the best way for me to affect that change. But, we shall see, I guess.
Yeah, and I kind of want to circle back to the what we talked about at the beginning too, but like I mean, you are kind of a micro celebrity, like in the Navy community, especially. I know, like we joke about
Am
it and
I?
stuff,
I
but
don't know.
I just randomly threw it out there the other day to a couple people I work with. I was like, "Hey, have you guys ever heard of the podcast Don't Give Up the Ship?" And they're like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great resource. I listen to it all the
Yeah.
time." Blah blah. Blah. I'm
Never
talking to the
even
guy.
heard
Like
of
I'm talking to
it.
the guy tomorrow,
Right.
for my podcast. And they're like, "You got a podcast too?" I'm like, "I've been telling you
Uh,
guys this. Come on,
I've been telling, yeah.
I've been
I
telling you."
Yeah, and it's interesting. I wonder how much of it is because of the Alpha Homa thing, because um I had no interaction prior to I mean I had no interaction at all prior to the Master Arms meme page sharing that post, tagging me and stuff. Like I didn't talk to them at all. I just jumped, and that Alpha Homa thing was very spur of the moment. Like I got sent something, I think by Ariana or Desiree, who do those other podcasts for me. And I think it was them. It might have just been in Discord or some Reddit or something. I don't know. I was made aware of it like the day I did that podcast. I did some quick research, figuring out what the fuck was going on, and then just spun it up to do a spin the yarn because I needed a topic for that week. And I was like, oh, this will be an interesting case study of like what not to do, but also when the internet comes for you, it's like, oh, okay, come on now, like think about it. And when they shared that post, it blew my fucking mind because somebody texted me and said, "Well, you tamed the Master Arms meme page, however the fuck you did that. So like maybe there's hope for some other thing we were talking about." And I hadn't seen the post yet. I didn't even know what they're talking about. I'm like, "What do you mean? I didn't tame anybody. What are you talking about?" And then I seen the post and it melted my brain. I could not believe that because it's a fucking meme page. Like of all the things, of all the minds I thought I might change, like that was at the bottom of the list. And so when I saw that, I was just like, "Holy shit!" Like the power that I can have, or the impact that I can have. It was startling and encouraging. But I wonder if that's where a lot of them found it because I don't know that I had a lot of Master at Arms following me before because I've mentioned them before, and I followed that meme page for a long time, and I've seen a lot of the ways that they communicate their frustrations with being MAs, and I don't understand a lot of it. So I've made comments on podcasts before about like, if I got any MAs in the audience, hit me up, because I want to understand. You guys have a very unique subculture within the Navy, I think, and I don't understand it at all.
That'll be
And
our G-Guts episode.
yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we'll totally do it. But like, yeah, I wonder, because like for whatever reason, I've gotten really big in the CT community. Um, and then there's some other ones where it's like, I know there's a lot of people listening from certain communities, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of MAs listening. I could be wrong, but they've never interacted with me. So I
They
wonder if a
are
lot of those,
now.
I
they're
wonder
there
if a lot
now.
of those just came from that post where the Master Arms meme page was like, because then there was all kinds of, if you get into the comment section of that post, it gets lit. It's like talking about who got to you, and like, what is this,
Yup.
like the Disney Channel now, and all this shit. And I'm like, dude, I didn't even talk to him. To this day, I've never had a conversation with him. I just commented on that post going, holy shit, this is amazing. Thank you for being willing to like make this post. And if you're down, I invited him on the podcast. I'm like, if you're down to talk, never heard from him, never got any messages. So, or her, I don't even know. So
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't tame anybody. I just did a podcast and then walked away.
that Master at Arms meme page, whoever is
Yeah.
running that page, which there's theories and rumors I've heard through the community,
Yeah.
but whoever they are, they try to stay as anonymous as possible because
Mhm.
they know for a fact they have pissed
Yeah.
off way more people.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah. Dude, I did an interview with the dude that runs the Reactor is Critical. It's that nuke page that, I
mhm.
mean, they have an enormous following. And I interviewed the dude that well, he's like one of the guys. There's like a structure, but like he's kind of the guy in charge. Um, and I interviewed him. He used a voice changer on the podcast. He was that worried about getting found out. And I was just like, bro, you whatever, do what you got to do, man. I just
Yeah.
want to talk to you. And it didn't sound ridiculous or anything. So,
It was
so
just
yeah,
like,
but I get it. I understand. I had a big concern about that for a long time too. Like, it was my lowest level concern because
mhm.
when I was on active duty, I wasn't doing anything that I viewed as controversial enough to get me in trouble. And I'll to this day defend every single word I've ever said on the podcast because I either still passionately believe it or I can just make the argument that I learned and my stance evolved. But
We're allowed to
the
learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm allowed to be wrong and learn something later. And so, but I never said anything at like crazy or like against the UCMJ or anything like that. And so, but I still had this like low key fear that one day my CMC'd call me and it was awesome. Be like, what the fuck are you doing in your free time? You know, like, God damn.
I'm not
Because
getting a
like,
DUI. That's what I'm not
yeah,
fucking
I
doing.
know, right? I'm just going home and talking to a microphone, dog.
Jesus
But
Christ.
yeah, like they because like it got to a point where when it started to get so big while I was on active duty, like I had like active duty heavy hitters reaching out and going, hey, we'd like to get this person on your podcast. And a lot of those never happened because then I came back with and I think I told you guys this offline. I don't want to use the
Mhm.
name of the person on a podcast, but um I don't think I've said his name.
But you said I'm not going to
Whatever.
softball it. I'm going
But
to
I'm
ask
not,
them.
yeah, I just said yeah, this ain't going to be an all hands call. I'm not going to throw you underhand pitches. Like, I'm going to ask hard questions and I'm going to demand answers. And I would tell them, I'm like, look, you can edit it. I'll send you the raw audio. You can tell me what's cool or not. If it turns into 30 minutes of word salad, I just won't publish it. But they like, as soon as I said this ain't going to be some softball bullshit, they all got spooked and I never had any of them on. But, uh, but yeah, it's, when it started to get to that point, and thank like God bless Paul Kingsbury, he's a retired Fleet Master Chief. He does a lot of really cool stuff and a really great dude. I wish he would have been McPon. Because he would have been that guy. He would have been the guy that snuck in and did it right. But he he would send the podcast while I'm on active duty, mind you. He's like, I just sent that podcast to every active fleet force in the MCPON. I'm like, thanks, asshole. Like, what the fuck? I'm like, are you trying to get me hemmed up?
Like, greenlit your ass.
But at the same time, it's like I gotta like stand behind my shit. Like I'm trying to affect change in this arena. I mean, that's kind of a blessing, and I understand why he would think that it's he's helping me by doing so. But at the same time, that fear in me was just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like I'm about to get lit up. And then luckily it never really happened. Like I had buddies of mine that would recognize my voice and be like, dude, do you have a podcast? And then some other people would just figure it out in other ways because I talk enough about who I am, where I've been, whatever, vaguely on those episodes that some people would figure me out. And then some other people would like reach out and stuff. But yeah, other than that, I never got like figured out while I was on active duty, thank God. But yeah, it's I had that fear for a long time of like they're gonna come for me or whatever. But not, I don't even remember how I got on that tangent about people coming for me, but here we are.
Well, fun
Oh,
story.
the meme page thing, the meme page thing. Yeah,
Fun story.
yeah.
I'm actually an investigator at my current command. This is my investigation of you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, joke's on you, nerd. I'm retired and I eat weed all the time, so kiss my ass. Come at me, bro. I'll go.
Fuck
Yeah, I'll go
yeah.
get an edible right now. Fucking.
Hell yeah. No, isn't it
Oh,
like it's really early there for you?
It's 11 in the morning. Yeah, it would just put me to sleep if I.
Yeah.
That's really like people
well,
like
indica
I'm
would.
not. I'm not high all the time and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's like a. It's a sleep aid to me. Like
Yeah.
it's something. I have all the sleep disorders like diagnosed insomnia, anxiety, both types of sleep apnea really severely. Like I'm a fucking dumpster, and my
Yeah.
anxiety keeps me awake quite a bit too. So like it's like as soon as I lay down, it's like fight or flight, and I'm like, God, fucking damn.
Yeah, I mean, you
But
did
it's
21 years in the military, and I tell people like every year in the military is the equivalent of like 3 years in a civilian job. Like the amount of
yeah,
stress and
it's
bullshit that you put up with.
I
Just
know. I
man.
try to, dude, I try to explain that to people. Like, I try to, they're like, I tell them about like how my body feels or how I'm tired all the time or all the shit I got going on medically. And they're like, my jujitsu coach and stuff would be like, you're not that old, Will, calm down. Like, I'm 46 or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but did you do 20 years in the military? Because I aged like milk. All right. Fucking don't
Yeah.
tell me about like I'm 40 going on 60. All right. That's how my body feels. And I have to do a preposterous amount of maintenance for it to not feel like that.
Right.
Most
Um,
people do
yeah.
like 8 to 12 hour days. A 12
Mhm.
hour day was an easy day for us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
dude.
you're on the clock 24
Uh-huh.
7. So,
Uh-huh. That's
And
what
you
I
were
and
try
they don't
to
fucking let you forget.
and
I
you were
try to
on a
explain it to
sub.
people. Yeah,
Like
I try to explain it to people. I'm just like, you're looking at like 14, 15, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for months. No sunlight. I'm sleeping on a fucking I don't even yet like it's
You
I
feel
might
like a
as well be
hot
sleeping on
pocket.
yeah, I might as
yeah,
well be
yeah.
sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm just and like when I would stand diving officer of the watch was what I primarily did on my last submarine. And you're sitting like I don't know if you ever seen a picture of the control room of a submarine, but like you have like this rickety ass shitty chair that you have to sit in for 8 fucking hours. Like, yeah, I get some head breaks, but that's it. Like, and so I spent almost all day, every day sitting in not an ergonomic or like lumbar friendly fucking piece of shit chair or
God.
standing because I needed to stay awake for that time too. But
Yeah, they bought that
yeah, I
chair off
mean,
of wish.com for $1. So
probably, dude. It fucking sucked. And it just fucks you up, man. It's like your body just revolts. It's like the deck plates, all the ladders, banging your fucking knees and ankles and all this on all this
mhm.
bullshit and like not to mention like food loads and all the other ridiculous shit I've done with my body. I've had a 40-pound like bundle of flour dropped from the top of what they call the forward escape trunk on a Los Angeles class submarine, and you're looking at like, I mean, it's probably 20 feet down, like top to bottom, 25 feet. Like somebody dropped one of those from the top to me at the bottom, and it just spiked me on the head, and
Oh
like
my
I'm like seeing
God.
spots and shit. And so it's just like
Gotta
there's
get you
so
to
much
medical.
crazy shit. Yeah, there's no, I didn't go to medical. I just kept loading food because fucking it was 2002.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Just like suck it up, bitch. Let's go. We got food
Yeah.
to load.
And that was when the
Um,
disability started.
yeah, I mean, I that's not even on the list, man. Like I fucking my disability consists of like cancer, the
Jesus.
side effects from radiation treatment and the I had brain surgery and all this shit and anxiety, insomnia, sleep apnea of all types, fucking
Oh, hold
I
on.
got a bunch of like joint issues. Uh-oh.
Yeah, we
Aaron
lost
Aaron's gone.
yeah, we lost Aaron.
Ruh-roh. His internet is dog shit.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
doesn't normally have this many issues with it,
Oh,
but
really?
Yeah, I don't
Huh.
know what's going on.
Maybe he's
We
got
actually
bad
are
weather.
probably about to cut the episode here pretty shortly too.
Why is that? Or you guys got to go?
Well, we typically keep the episodes to around an hour.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
recording now
Joke's
for
on you, nerd. I do 3-hour episodes. So
I
I
know,
do. I
I've seen
fucking
that. I've
I
seen
laugh at
that.
people. I laugh at people when I guest on their podcast because they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna try to keep it to 30 minutes." I'm like, "You're hilarious."
Yeah,
I'm like, "It's
right?
gonna be at least an hour."
Yeah.
It's like you clearly have never. I fucking talk, man. Like I get when I get going, and it's like I don't have access to sailors that often anymore. So like when I get to talk to guys like you, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking talk your ear off.
Hell yeah. And
So
I'm all
yeah,
about it. And in all honesty, like if you're willing to come back for
yeah,
multiple
dude.
episodes, dude, like I don't
I'm
even 'cause
I'm
we also do like
I'm down.
a different thing where don't do
Mm,
just like straight episodes with Aaron and I. Sometimes we do
yeah.
something called like Shine Your Light where it's just one person.
Yeah.
So
Sign
like
me up, dude. I'm
yeah,
down. I
I'd
love
be
doing this shit. It's fun. I just did. I don't know if you know Alexis Travis. She's a submarine supply officer that she's like a TikTok influencer. It's and like on it, she's real big on Instagram too. It's like Mill Mama on the Run or whatever. But she's doing a podcast now, and I just guested on hers too, and it's fun as fuck, man. It's fun when I don't have to be the one that's like running shit. It's
yeah.
cool to be a guest because I can just come shoot the shit
Yeah.
and talk and not have to edit and post and do all the other bullshit. And I don't have to be the one. I don't have to be the one like guiding the conversation. I can just like be there and exist and have fun, and it's cool. I enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. No, it's it I think for Aaron and I, we're really lucky since because he does like the chopping and then I mean
Mm,
he's retired. He's got more than enough
right,
time to do that shit.
right.
And then I just take care of the
He
mastering, the
said he just
uploading
had
and
a
stuff.
power blip at the house, so I don't know if we're gonna get him back anytime soon. He put it in the Facebook Messenger chat,
Hmm.
so I think maybe he doesn't have electricity,
He might not.
perhaps. But it's all good. We can wrap it up if you want.
Yeah, our outro
Entirely.
has lines from both Aaron and I in it. So, but
Well, I mean, you guys can do that whenever, though.
oh yeah,
So,
we definitely could. We definitely could.
but I'm down to keep talking if you want to, too. It's totally up to you. It's your guys' rodeo.
I mean, I feel like there was something on here that kind of caught my attention that I wanted to
Hmm.
ask about. So the E4
Let's do it.
solution, that kind of stood out to me on this
Is that
list.
the putting an E4 at every flag command thing or whatever?
I mean, that might be what he's referencing. I think it was after
I
I got
think it
off
is.
the horn with
Yeah,
you
okay,
guys.
yeah. No, yeah, me and him talked about it a little bit yesterday or whatever day. But yeah, so this wasn't my idea at all. I want to say it was Ariana's. Oh, he's back, sort
Yep.
of. So I want to say it was Ariana's idea, but the E4 thing was she said it might have been on a podcast or I don't remember, but she was saying that and she actually like Ariana is me minus whatever fucking filter I have. Like she's and I used to think I didn't have a filter and then I met Ariana. But like I mean, she's like like when a nav admin comes out and she's like, "What the fuck?" She's the one emailing the point of contact at the bottom with a 10-point plan on how to unfuck this. And it's like so she's had meetings at the Pentagon with like high level CMCs. Like she just has like interjects herself into these conversations and they love it, which is interesting. And so I want to say she sent this it was part of a plan she sent to one of these Pentagon CMC people, but it was the idea of, or she posted it at the MCPON AMA on Reddit, or both. But it was the idea that the thing we were talking about earlier about how they're so out of touch because they're so disconnected because they've been in, like just going from office to office at the Pentagon for a decade, or because they've just been on flag staffs and all that shit for so long, or whatever it is. She basically was saying if you installed a first shore duty sailor, so like she said E4, but like you complete your first operational tour and then they send you to a flag staff and you're the admiral's like stupid check. Like you're the E4 in the room that when they come up with some kind of a policy, they then eventually, and yeah, like they could do other administrative work or some shit. But then, so like they're having a meeting about this policy, they think they've ironed it out, and then they're like, "All right, time to scan this by our resident E4," and they bring the salty E4 in, and they're like, "All right, here's the problem. Here's the problem set. Here's our proposed solution or plan to fix it. Why is it stupid? Start poking holes in it. You know what I mean? And if you think, and I think they believe they're doing that already with either the working group thing, which again, I don't really know how they do that or how the input gets integrated. Um, but I think they think they're doing it in that way already, and maybe they are. I don't fucking know, but like it's not coming out in the end product. And
I am available for consulting.
for real, ditto. I've been saying that about leadership development and education too. I'm like, I'm not saying I want to be the leadership development and education czar for the Navy, but I'm not saying I don't want to. It's like somebody come at me with an offer sheet and we'll talk. But and I was like, except I'm working fully remote from home. I'm still gonna eat weed, and I mean that's really I'll have a salary demand, but that's the end of the list.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm willing to come to the Pentagon once in a while, but that depending on the pay, and you're paying for the flight and hotel.
I'm
but
not shaving.
The private jet.
Yeah, whatever. I'll take a private jet. I'll hitch a ride on a private jet. I don't give a shit. Yeah. It doesn't even have to be mine. But yeah, I think they think they're accomplishing it in that way, but then I also think that what you probably get is some of these like MCPON leadership mess types or officers, if they're willing to solicit the feedback at all, they're coming out of their office and they're asking like YN3 flag writer or like MC3 that never works in the real Navy. You know what I mean? No. And so it's like maybe they have some good insight, but like you need to get a sailor that was haze gray and underway, or a sailor that was on a submarine, or a CB, or somebody that was out there doing the damn thing, or an MA that's out there fucking checking IDs, getting told to stay dry, and fucking driving around in the car dealing with drunk idiots and whatever the fuck else you guys do with your time. Like you need to talk to those people, because like I can tell you there's a ton of problems that don't even chart ever. You know what I mean? Like I used to go down to we had the Marine Corps Security Forces Battalion here because they had ballistic missile submarines. So there's a shitload of MAs that work with them. You'd be going down onto the explosive handling wharf, and it's like a fucking TSA checkpoint. It's so goddamn stupid. I'm like, I have a top secret security clearance, bro.
Yeah,
like,
we know.
Like of all the fucking threats that exist. Like I have a higher security clearance than the MA that's telling me I can't take a lighter down to the submarine. Yep. Like, bitch, if I was going to blow that shit up, the bomb would be on board already. I have unfettered fucking access to that thing. I'm not going to try to bring a grenade down now. I would have done it back at the pier when I could bring a fucking Uzi down to the boat and no one would ever know. Like that's how loose security is and how much access I have when we're on any other pier ever. So it's the most nonsensical bullshit ever, but that's not even my point. My point is the experience of those sailors down there on that job, largely unsupervised, it seems. It's like, it fucking sucks. And so like, what are the issues that those types of people have in those positions that we don't even fucking know about? Those are the things we should be talking about, working on, dealing with, so that sailor's everyday experience is such that they want to stay in the military and they feel valued and blah blah blah. But like I think the E4 solution idea it would be extremely productive, but the problem I see is like I mean it's so easy to discount. It's like there would have to be some type of mechanism to ensure that that person can, one, say those things with no fear of reprisal or anything. Two, it would be taken seriously. And it's like, well, okay, how do you objectively measure that? Like, because maybe that room of people discounts that input for a really good reason, or they discount it entirely because fuck that guy. Like, and they're just checking the box like it's PO Indoc. You know what I mean? Like, yep. It's a great idea. The actual implementation of it would be extremely challenging because I don't know how you QA that process. I don't know how you make sure that even if you manage to get it done and get those billets created and get those E4s in those billets or E5s in those billets, how do you then ensure? Because like one of the things that me and Ariana talked about is like you only detail E4s or E5s that intend to separate after their shore duty, so they don't give a shit about their evals or awards or anything. Like, and they like do something. They sign a page 13 saying like, I deny my Seaway quota if that's still a thing or whatever, and that I do not intend to re-enlist under any circumstances, so that there's it kind of protects them in that way. But yeah, I don't know how you would like how do you measure whether or not they're considering their input? You know, like I don't fucking know.
So what
Good
you do,
luck.
right? This is what you do. Okay. So you get that billet created for E4s.
Mhm.
Then you create a separate billet that's the E4 that's in charge of all those E4s. So that every single time that E4 makes input, they have to submit that to the E4 who's in charge of all those billets. Then that E4 is going to submit all of that to another
Like
E4 that's
metrics.
above that.
Like analytics for how
Yeah.
often was my input incorporated, and if
Yeah.
it's not, somebody's gonna come punch you in the
And
face.
the funny thing is too, like if a billet like that was created, and this is just something that comes to my twisted fucking mind, right? But like I can see somebody who's an E5 being like, damn, I want that fucking job. I'm gonna go to Mast. I'm just gonna go to
Yeah.
fucking Mast and get busted down.
I mean, I could see it being attractive for like because there was a mechanism I used, and this may or may not have figured into to Ariana's good idea fairy moment, but I used to go find like there were these salty like E5 smoke pit lords that you'd go find and be
Yup.
like, hey, like this is the guy that I want poking holes in my plan because this
Yep.
is the guy. Like he's gonna be the guy like when I put this out at all hands call or something, he's gonna be the guy that raises his hand and tells me why it's fucking stupid. And so like I'd rather him tell me that not at all hands call. I'd rather him tell me that ahead of time so that I can incorporate that input into my plan. So I had a couple of those guys on my last submarine that I would go to and be like, all right, here's what we're talking about doing. Start poking holes in it for me. And they would like 100% of the time because I had established a relationship with them that they knew they could do it and I wasn't going to get like pissed at them or anything.
Yeah.
But also like they wanted input, like they wanted to be part of the discussion. So why the fuck would like they're the ones that are going to be affected by this thing or have to like go do the thing that we're saying we're going to do. Like they're going to be the ones actually with their hands on the equipment or the implement or whatever. So it's like, why would I not talk to them and ask
Yeah.
them, okay, here's our great idea. What have we not thought of? Um, and they came back with some really great feedback a lot of the time when you ask them ahead of time. But what I noticed when you were just getting a reaction to it, there was a lot more vitriol and anger, but there was also a lot more resistance by the chief's mess or the CO or whoever was the one saying this is what we're going to do. There's a lot more resistance to them changing the plan after the fact, like going back and changing it because some E5 made us look like assholes at all hands call. And it's like, no, we made ourselves look like assholes, number one. But two, it's like you go ask them for that feedback ahead of time, and they're going to be a lot more amenable to incorporating it. But at the same time, I was actively seeking that. So of course I'm going to take it seriously. And there was also a modicum of like, it's getting filtered through me. So it's not like that E5 is standing in the Chiefs nest telling all these people that thing. I'm saying it. So and I'm pretty confident I said where I got it from, but like it's just a different conversation when senior chief's standing in there going, hey, like I talked to some guys and this is what they think. And I think it's a great point. So like I'm co-signing it. Whereas if we had the E4 billet thing, it's like no one's co-signing that except for or I guess the person that implements the program. But like it'd be extremely easy for that mess, wardroom, chain of command, whatever, to just make it a check in the box. Like, yep, we consulted him, sign here. Okay, fuck off. We're not going to do anything you said, like, so it'd be really challenging, but it's still a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we're reaching the end of our episode today. Before we do sign off, though, do you have anything that you want to tell us, or anything that
Um,
we didn't really get to touch on, or just plug your podcast and where people can find you?
yeah, I mean, I don't have like a little nugget of wisdom or a quote or anything. Like I have thousands of hours of podcasts if anybody ever wants to subject themselves to that torture. But yeah, dguspodcast.com, anywhere you get podcasts, don't give up ship podcasts. You got to don't give up ship apparel as well. It's dgutsapparel.com. We do like naval pride and heritage gear. We got a bunch of stickers and hoodies and all kinds of fun shit. I just like that was like a passion project slash I just want to be able to wear something cool that reflects
Won't
my
make you cringe.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
The
Yep.
naval pride heritage gear you'll actually wear in public. So yeah, that's something that I'm pretty proud of, and I kind of DIY'd all that too. So, but yeah, other than that, nah, man. I mean, we got a bunch of other podcasts as well. A lot of people don't really realize that if you go to our podcast platform, we have right now. So two of them are kind of on hiatus. So Seeds of Triumph, and Trash Panda Talks, which is Ariana and Desiree. They made Chief this year and are still kind of adjusting to that role. So like they were busy with the Chief season, and then they're just kind of trying to get their feet under them still, and plan. I believe they plan on coming back. I know Desiree has committed to coming back at some point. Ariana is got a lot going on in her life holistically, so I'm not sure when that'll come back. And then Trey does Doc's Point of View, which is a Corman centric podcast. All those are published through our RSS feed. So if you go to Diga's podcast, wherever you get your podcast, you can also access those. There's a bunch of old episodes. Trey, I have a bunch of episodes queued. I just have to like get them uploaded and all that. And then I got a couple more people I'm talking to too. We're trying to basically turn the platform into like a proceedings magazine for podcasts. Like I want it to be like if somebody's got something to say and they want to do a one-off, fine. If they want to do a limited series, fine. If you want to do an intermittent series, fine. If you want to do a consistent series, fine. Like it's the idea was get more voices and perspectives out there that are not my own and are not filtered through me like they're guests. I want people to come on and talk about what they're passionate about and it be their point of view exclusively. Um, and then I didn't want them to have the burden of starting up a podcast. Like there's a lot of overhead and infrastructure and learning curve involved if you're going to do it full time. And I was just like, dude, I already have an audience. You don't have to like grind out an audience for a couple years. You don't have to do the social media. You don't have to do any of that shit. Just record it and send it to me and I'll take it from there. And so that's what we're trying to do. And that's something I plan on scaling up, but I got a couple more marinating. With one person's talking about doing like a Navy news podcast where they're going to do basically it's a new chief that wants to like break down policy and nav admins and shit going on in the military, and maybe like they'll keep their pulse on the online stuff on like Reddit and meme pages and stuff, and just kind of break down all those things so that E3 on the deck plate can digest like what does this nav admin mean to me, or what does this new policy mean to me, or whatever. So I'm really excited about that one. I think that'll be really cool. And then there's another one that'll be leadership from the officer side. Yeah, I'm excited about this year. I think it's going to be really cool, and you're going to see a lot of growth and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of other resources via our platform that if people want to check those out, those are there as well. So yeah, dgaspodcast.com, hit us up.
Hell yeah. 2024. It's going to be the year
Hell
for
yeah.
you. It's going to be
This
the
is
year
gonna
for
be
us.
my
It's
year.
going to be a great year.
This is the year, man.
This is it.
Yeah.
Well, we do truly appreciate you taking some time out to come talk with us. This has been excruciatingly helpful. So,
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, guys. And hopefully, can get you guys a bump in listenership too. I'll post all the things on my side of the house and see if we can. I'm big on amplifying voices of like, especially veterans and active duty military. Like if people are willing to come into the space and do it, whether you want to do it through or with me or not, I'm still down to amplify people and help them out in any way I can, just because I think it's important for, there to be other voices out there besides my own. So
hit us up and let us know when you want us to come on DGuts. We'll talk to you about
absolutely.
our community and stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We can do a alpha homa redux and like rehash some of that and just go through like I am very curious about the MA subculture. So
yeah,
definitely.
Well, sorry. Thanks to all of you, the listeners.
This has been Aaron
and Tim with Don't Give Up the Ship podcast.
That's me.
A huge thank you to Highland Markle, that's not him, for the original music.
Hell yeah.
Share this episode with a friend.
Or anyone who could benefit from it.
And leave a comment below if there's a topic you want to hear our take on.
All pertinent links can be found in the episode description.
Be good to yourselves and each other.
We love you.
Peace.
Yahtzee. We did it.